Hello and welcome to AI Education for Business, Work, and Life.
Hi there. Great to be here.
So today we are really digging into a pretty critical question for organizations really everywhere.
Yeah. How can you actually use AI to free up capacity?
Exactly. You know, that whole idea of getting more done with the team you have, or maybe even, letting your staff step away from the routine stuff.
Letting them focus on the high value work, the things that really need, their skills, their human input.
Precisely. And to explore this, we're looking at a really interesting real world example.
That's right. Aberdeen City Council over in Scotland. They faced some pretty big challenges and they've been quite forward thinking in using AI to tackle them.
Yeah, creating that capacity they desperately needed. So our goal here is to really understand, okay, what problems was Aberdeen facing?
What AI tools did they actually implement?
And crucially, what were the outcomes? What actually happened? The tangible results?
And as we go through it, we really hope you listening can be thinking, how might this apply to my situation?
Right. Could these ideas, these tools, help free up capacity in your work or maybe your team or your business?
Because these real examples are so useful, aren't they?
They really are. Okay, and just before we dive fully in, if you find these kinds of real-world AI explorations helpful,
and you want to keep up with how AI is changing things,
please do take a second now to hit subscribe, maybe give us a like, and definitely click that notification bell.
Yeah, that way you won't miss out on our future episodes exploring AI in action. We'd really appreciate the support.
We really would. Okay, so let's start at the beginning with Aberdeen. What was the core challenge? What prompted them to look at AI?
Well, okay, Aberdeen's a major local authority serving, I think, around 230,000 residents.
Right, decent sized.
Yeah, and like a lot of local governments and honestly loads of big organizations right now, public and private, they were in a tough spot.
What kind of tough spot specifically?
Well, they were seeing demand for essential resident services just spike. Things like healthcare support, housing help, the really critical stuff people rely on.
Okay, so demand's going up.
But, and this is the kicker, it was happening at the same time as they were facing pretty significant budget cuts.
Oh, right.
And also ongoing workforce shortages. That's a common story across the UK public sector, but it really hit them hard.
So more people needing help, less money, fewer staff.
Yeah.
That's a squeeze.
It's a huge squeeze. And then you add in the specific context of Aberdeen, which has quite a pronounced wealth gap.
Okay.
And that disparity tends to drive even higher demand for social services from certain parts of the population.
So all these pressures combined.
It led directly to just this massive administrative overload for the staff they did have.
Right, drowning in paperwork.
Exactly. They were spending so much time on admin, on routine tasks.
Time they really needed for, actually helping people dealing with complex cases.
Precisely. Their ability to really meet the complex needs of residents was getting strained because staff were just bogged down.
Okay.
So the goal became really clear. Find ways to lift that admin burden, to let staff focus on care and support, not just, processing forms.
Makes total sense. So the problem is high demand, tight resources, admin overload. How did AI come into the picture? What did they actually do?
Well, they didn't just throw one thing at it. They took a more strategic, sort of multi-pronged approach. Different AI tools for different jobs.
Okay, like what?
The first big one was a citizen-facing chatbot. They called it AB1.
The AB1, okay, digital assistant for the public.
Exactly that. It's an AI designed to simulate, a human conversation, built specifically to handle those common questions people ask when they visit the council website.
And they were quite early with this, weren't they?
They were, yeah. Aberdeen was actually the first local authority in Scotland to launch something like this back in 2020.
So how does it work for someone visiting the site?
Well, you usually see a little chat icon, maybe in the corner of the page. You click it, type your question, and AB1 digs through the council's public info and gives you an answer pretty much straight away. It's built for those, high frequency, quick questions.
What sort of questions are we talking about? The everyday stuff?
Yeah, exactly. The things council phone lines probably get asked hundreds of times a day.
Right.
Like, when's my bin collected? What are the school holidays? How do I pay my council tax? Or, how do I report fly tipping? Can I challenge this parking ticket? What can I take to the recycling center?
Right. All that factual stuff that takes up staff time answering individually.
Precisely. Answering those manually, one by one, just eats up so much time.
I can see that. And you mentioned it's multilingual. That seems important for a city.
It is, yeah. Very important for a diverse place like Aberdeen. AB1 can understand and chat in several languages.
Which ones?
They mentioned Gaelic, Polish, Ukrainian, Russian, Arabic, and Mandarin specifically. So people can just type in their own language.
That's great. And accessibility.
Yeah, it works with standard screen readers too. So try to make it inclusive.
Okay, that's impressive, but there must be limits, right? It can't do everything.
Well, absolutely. And that's a really important point. It has clear boundaries. AB1 can't handle sensitive personal information.
Right.
So you can't use it to discuss the specifics of, say, your council tax bill or payments or any private social care details.
Makes sense. For that, you need the secure channels.
Exactly. Anything personal, you stick to the standard secure ways of contacting the council.
Got it. And they've upgraded AB1 recently, using newer AI.
They have, yes. They launched an improved version that uses generative AI.
So like the tech behind ChatGPT and similar tools?
Kind of, yeah. It means AB1 can understand more complex questions phrased more naturally.
And give better answers.
And give more detailed sort of conversational answers. It can apparently even look at the chat history to understand context better. Maybe even guess what you might ask next.
Okay, that sounds a lot more useful than just basic keyword matching.
It is. And it's designed to learn. It has this feedback loop, probably using something like Copilot Studio. So it gets smarter based on how people use it and the feedback they give.
That's clever. Continuous improvement.
Mm-hmm. And they also built an internal version for their own staff.
Oh, interesting. For what?
For the councils, like 8,000 employees. Helps them with common internal questions, HR stuff, payroll, like asking about wages or how much annual leave they have left.
So tackling routine questions both outside and inside the organization with AB1. Okay, that's one big piece. What else did they bring in?
The second key area was focusing on staff productivity directly, using AI in their sort of day-to-day workflows. They rolled out Microsoft 365 Copilot to, I think, over 700 staff members.
Right, Copilot. We hear a lot about that. How did it help free up capacity there?
Well, his main job is to help automate those repetitive, time-sucking admin tasks.
The necessary evils.
Pretty much, yeah. The stuff you have to do, but it pulls you away from the main part of your job.
Can you give some concrete examples? What's Copilot doing for Aberdeen staff?
Sure. Things like taking minutes in meetings automatically.
That's a big one. Save someone typing them all up later.
Huge. Or drafting reports. You give it the info. It helps structure and write the first draft.
Okay.
Drafting policy documents. Even things like quick translation help for internal comm.
Yeah, those tasks individually might seem small, but they add up across hundreds of staff.
They absolutely do. Hours and hours saved each week, potentially per person.
And that time saved. What does it allow staff to do?
It just gives them that time back. It lets them focus their energy, their skills on the stuff that really needs a human. You know, the complex problem solving, the strategy, and maybe most importantly, the direct interaction with residents. The caring part.
Letting humans do the human work.
That's the idea.
And I think I saw something about it having a positive impact for neurodivergent employees as well.
Yes, that was mentioned as a benefit. Apparently, the way Copilot can help with tasks like drafting text or summarizing big documents. Things that can sometimes be a bit challenging depending on how someone's brain works.
Yeah.
That's actually made work feel more inclusive and efficient for some neurodivergent staff.
That's a really great, maybe unexpected positive outcome.
It is, yeah. A nice side benefit of bringing in these tools.
Okay, so we have AB1 for the public and internal FAQs, Copilot helping staff with admin tasks. Was there a third piece to this AI strategy?
Yes. The third part was more foundational, but really important. It was about modernizing their core systems and bringing their data together.
How did they do that?
They used Microsoft Dynamics 365 mainly to consolidate data and workflows for adult and children's social care.
So getting rid of data silos.
Pretty much. Historically, that kind of critical info might be scattered across different older systems. Hard to get a full picture quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine that's frustrating for frontline staff.
Hugely. So having it integrated in Dynamics 365 means staff can record info once, find relevant history easily, share things securely with colleagues when they need to.
Cuts down on the admin of just finding information.
Drastically. Less time hunting, more time helping.
And does Dynamics 365 have AI features built in too?
It does. It supports automation within the workflows, cutting down more manual steps. Plus, it has analytics capability.
Right.
And having that integrated data combined with analytics is really important for things like safeguarding. Staff get a better view, making it easier to spot potential risks or patterns.
I see. And they're using it for communication too.
Yeah, they mentioned piloting something using the Dynamic 365 contact center part, sending targeted messages or resources out to residents, even using channels like Facebook Messenger.
Okay, so connecting systems, data, automation, and even outreach, that's quite comprehensive.
It is. It's thinking about the whole flow.
Big question. What happened? What were the results? The outcomes?
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, right? And the results seem pretty significant, both for Aberdeen's residents and for the council itself.
Let's start with the citizens. What's changed for them?
Well, the big one is access to information for those routine questions.
Right. Help whenever you need it, not just during office hours.
Exactly. It empowers people to find answers themselves, self-service. Less waiting on hold or for an email reply for simple stuff.
And the new generative AI version of AB1, is it making a difference?
Apparently, yes. Early signs are that it's answering twice as many questions as the old version.
Wow, double the queries handled automatically. That's a clear jump in efficiency.
It really is. And they expect that number to keep climbing as it learns. The idea is that people can now get most standard answers online via the chatbot.
Which must directly impact the number of calls and emails staff have to deal with.
Absolutely. Which leads us to the impact on the staff and the council.
Okay, so what efficiency gains did they see?
But directly from AB1, handling more inquiries, there's that reduction in calls and emails. That frees up staff time immediately.
Time they can use
for the more complex cases, the face-to-face work, the situations that need real human judgment and empathy.
And the Copilot rollout, how did that affect staff?
They've reported definite gains in productivity from using M365 Copilot, but also, interestingly, improvements in job satisfaction.
Because they're doing less drudgery.
I think so, yeah. When you take away some of that tedious admin, people feel more productive, more engaged with the core purpose of their work, the stuff that actually makes a difference.
Did they put any numbers on this? Any financial savings?
They did. They projected a 241% return on investment, specifically from time savings and productivity boosts.
241% ROI. Wow.
And in money terms,
they estimate that equates to savings of around £3 million a year.
$3 million annually just from freeing up staff time. That's substantial for a council budget.
It's huge. But they stress that the main goal wasn't just cutting costs.
Exactly. It was about creating capacity. First, freeing up that valuable staff time and expertise. The financial saving is like a very positive consequence of creating that capacity.
So it's not just saving money, it's unlocking the potential that was already there, just buried under admin.
That's a good way to put it.
So what can they do with that freed up capacity now?
Well, they can redirect that staff time, put it towards new projects, improve how they deliver those high demand services, or even do more proactive outreach instead of just reacting to problems.
Having the people power available for the real challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier that the modernized data systems, the Dynamics 365 part, opened up possibilities like predictive work.
Yes, and this is where it gets really interesting, potentially game-changing. By having that social care data integrated and using analytics, they can start looking for patterns, for risk factors. The idea is to potentially identify situations where harm might occur before it happens.
So predicting need or risk.
And potentially intervening earlier, maybe diverting a crisis before it fully develops.
Wow. Okay, that's a fundamental shift, isn't it? Moving from just reacting to problems to actively trying to prevent them.
It absolutely is. It goes beyond just making current processes faster. It could change the whole nature of how services are delivered, make them more proactive, more preventative.
So looking at the whole picture,
the overall impact is pretty layered. You've got staff freed up for more meaningful work. You've got residents getting better, faster access to information.
Setting a benchmark for other councils, maybe?
Potentially, yeah. Showing what's possible with digital innovation in local government. It's about giving customers more control while empowering staff to focus where they add most value.
It's definitely a compelling story, how implementing these specific AI tools, the chatbot, the productivity assistant, the data platform, really tackled those core issues of capacity and demand, especially when money's tight.
Absolutely. The Aberdeen case really shows it's not just about adopting tech because it's new and shiny. It's about strategic deployment, using the right tools to solve real business problems, helping the organization run better and serve people more effectively.
It really does make you pause and think, doesn't it? Where are the admin bottlenecks, the routine queries, the disconnected data holding things back in your world, in your job or your organization?
Exactly. Could some of these AI approaches unlock valuable time and resources for you or your team?
That's the practical takeaway.
But there's that bigger thought too, isn't there? If AI can go beyond just automation and answering questions, if it can start helping us predict needs or potential problems.
Like the potential for predictive analytics in social care.
Yeah. What does that really mean for how we can use this technology? How can we apply it not just for efficiency, but to serve people better, maybe even solve challenges more proactively?
Moving from efficiency to prevention. That is definitely something to think about long after this episode ends. Thanks for breaking down this case study today.
My pleasure. Always interesting to see AI in real world action.